Welcome back, everybody, to the 2019 Portland Pokemon Video Game Regional Championships. My name's still Dweeha. Joining me at the desk right now, my good friend Len Duel. Round 3 is getting ready to get underway, Len.
Yeah, we've got another good one for you. I'm excited about this one, actually.
Yeah, it's between Zach Droegkamp and Kimo Nishimura, both players that have been around the community for forever, pretty much, yeah?
Yeah, two long-time VGC community members. Zach, one of the winningest players at regionals, won a few of them. Kimo still looking for that first regionals win.
Wasn't there like a season where Zach won 3 regionals?
Something like that.
Back to back or something like that? One with like a mammoth swine trained incorrectly. Something like that. But
yeah, definitely been dominant at this level of play. So
yeah,
good to see him back at 2-0 and trying to do it again.
Yep, Kimo Nishimura, of course, player from Northern California. Had some success last year, making it to top 8 of the European International Championships. Right. I believe he lost in top 8.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Kimo coming off that success is going to try to use that. Obviously he didn't do well at like North American International Championships or the World Championships, but he's trying to take that momentum from European International Championships and still coast in here and try to win his first ever regional championship. Yeah,
Kimo's still a player who feels like he specializes in these GS Cup formats, loves while they're around, and today's what he's hoping for. Another Ultra Series tournament, and 2-0 so far.
Yep. We're getting ready now to jump into team preview between these two players. Kimo using Rogov's team, and looks like Zach on the other side using Metagross, Tapu Lele, Smeargle, Acelgor, Groudon, and Dawn Wings Necrozma. So there's an Acelgor. Did really well at the last regional championships in Richmond. I believe Nils actually piloted that Pokemon to a victory.
Yeah, I think there was one near the top in Sheffield also, if I'm recalling correctly. So
yeah.
Pokemon that, with that Unburdened Psychic Seed, gets a huge amount of speed. Already a very fast Pokemon. And then
it's one of the speediest Pokemon of all time.
Yeah, it really jumps that speed stat up there, which lets it get off some good support moves, things like Final Gambit to pick up KOs if it needs to, all kinds of options for Acelgor once it is moving oh so quickly.
Yep, and there it is. It is the Dawn Wings Necrozma and Acelgor leads for Zach. Over on the other side, Amoonguss and Kyogre. So this team, if it's a team that we've seen before on just at a regional, so Kimo probably has a matchup for it.
Yep, he should be prepared. Something like that Rage Powder, even if you're just giving away Amoonguss. Acelgor going to move before this Necrozma and probably just do something to help the Necrozma, and so you do redirect both attacks into Amoonguss and keep Kyogre safe for a turn. When your games are moving this quickly, just giving up Amoonguss for one safe turn of Kyogre can be worth it. The good thing about Acelgor here is, unlike some other Psychic Seed Unburdened Pokemon, something like Drifblim, is already so fast that even though Tapu Lele hasn't hit the field yet,
it's still outspeeding things.
It's still going to be the fastest thing on the field and doing a ton of work while it moves that quickly.
I mean, come on, Len. Its name is Acelgor. Of course, it's going to be fast.
Well, and of course, it's going to accelerate once it gets that Psychic Terrain.
Yep, and
here we go.
Dawn Wings Necrozma is Ultra Bursting immediately here, and it is going to be fast. It's going to be hitting hard,
shining so bright.
Yeah. As Amoonguss uses Rage Powder, drawing away attacks from that Kyogre, possibly taking a Final Gambit, but instead, Acid Spray from that Acelgor hits into that Amoonguss, dropping its special defense stat by 2 stages, and now here's a Photon Geyser from that Necrozma, that Ultra Necrozma, and hits into that Amoonguss. Easy KO there after that Acid Spray.
Yeah, you have to imagine that double target was meant for Kyogre, but the Rage Powder redirects it. And even though you're getting an easy KO into Amoonguss, you're giving up this Water Spout that hurts oh so much.
Yeah, so that Water Spout does 50% to that Ultra Necrozma, gets a KO on that Acelgor. No more threat of that really fast Pokemon. No more Acid Spray type moves from Zach's side of the field. But again, this team on Zach's side hit as hard as you can. Knock out 4 Pokemon before they can knock out yours. That's the old motto.
Light speed Pokemon here. That Acid Spray missing is huge, though, because Kyogre has a massive special defense stat. And trying to get through that special defense stat without the Acid Spray when you are trying to basically one-hit KO everything you attack becomes much more difficult. And this Metagross is not going to do that much better, but at least can go after Kyogre from the physical side.
Yeah, so Metagross takes the field as Rayquaza on Kimo's side takes the field here. That airlock ability going to matter because now that Kyogre won't be hitting the same way as it did the previous turn because the rain is now no longer in effect. So that's going to be pretty important. That Necrozma will be able to get off one more attack, possibly two, depending on how the next turn plays out.
Well, and to do that much damage in the first place was a full health water spout. You have to imagine there's not going to be any more full health water spouts coming out. It's going to drop in power no matter what.
Yeah, so Metagross on Zach's side can threaten Rayquaza with an Ice Punch as Metagross Mega Evolves here. That Tough Claws ability is really good. That speed boost is really good as well. So Mega Metagross, such a strong Pokemon in this format, despite having its weaknesses to Primal Growl, as Rayquaza on Kimo's side protects itself, doesn't want to take a possible Ice Punch, and Kyogre follows suit, just trying to see what Zach is going to do here.
I think fishing for the Z move here,
yep,
and
there
he gets it.
There it is, the light that burns the sky from the Ultra Necrozma, so there it is.
This was one of the remaining ways to pull that Kyogre off the field quickly, and it goes right into a Protect, where it won't be doing that.
Yeah, so it's going to be dealing some damage onto the field still through that Protect, a quarter of what it normally would have done, but yep, something's burning up. It's going to be hitting into that Rayquaza, maybe?
I would imagine to the Kyogre? Yeah, maybe the Rayquaza.
There it is,
Rayquaza,
yeah. Ooh, I
trying to get a 1-hit KO right there.
Yep.
Still going to do a decent amount. This Necrozma, very strong. This move, very strong. So, going to pick up a good amount of chunk, maybe put it into range for something from the Metagross. And, have a turn open to attack now that you've seen both of these Protects go down.
Yep, Metagross uses Iron Head into that Rayquaza slot. No effect thanks to that Protect. So that would have been an outright one-hit KO onto that Rayquaza. So moving into the next turn, now that the Protect has been blown, it's a bit safer for Kimo to operate because that Light That Burns Sky has been used up. Yeah,
no threat of Necrozma just destroying one of your Pokemon so quickly. But still, tons of damage that can come out, and Rayquaza is afraid of all that damage and goes into the pack.
Yep, Rayquaza switches out, and Incineroar takes the field here. Big Intimidate onto that Mega Metagross. Weaken the amount of damage it can do, and also take that Iron Head better if Zach decides to go for an attack onto that same slot. Photon Geyser from that Ultra Necrozma, again, hits into that Kyogre slot. Does good damage again as Metagross reveals Thunder Punch, actually. Going to try to deal some big damage there. Kyogre hangs on as Kyogre uses Ice Beam here, trying to connect into that Ultra Necrozma and get the KO from that range easily. So with a critical hit, but that shouldn't have mattered anyways. Now, a big offensive threat has been removed from Zach's side of the field and down to his last two Pokemon.
Yeah, the goal with this fast Psychic attacking is to kind of trade KOs and be the one who takes the last one. Having a turn where you miss your KO and give up one on the other side is not good. And the other thing that's not good is seeing Incineroar on the other side. That's a big roadblock for your goals of just Psychicking everything. It's got a great matchup here against both Lele and Metagross. You have to wonder what Metagross has dropped. We've seen Protect, we've seen Iron Head, we've seen Thunder Punch. So probably that Ice Punch is missing, but Stomping Tantrum, if it was missing, really makes this a problem. You have to imagine, you can see a lot of Incineroar. Incineroar is blocking a lot of your Psychic attacks. You're going to need Stomping Tantrum. And you're going to need that Thunder Punch to get through Kyogre's health bar. It doesn't work there, but if Kyogre had been a little damaged at some point earlier, that Thunder Punch would have been enough to get Kyogre off the field, even though the Light That Burns the Sky, and even though the Acid Spray were missing. So it's a valuable tool there that just came a little bit short.
Yep, and Tapu Lele, revealing that it is carrying a Choice Scarf item, uses Moonblast into that Incineroar, trying to get that KO onto that Incineroar outright. Here's the Stomping Tantrum from that Mega Metagross. Hits into that Incineroar slot is enough to get the KO. With a critical hit, though.
Yeah, that -1, I don't think it would have KO'd.
Yeah, so that is big right there as Kyogre uses an Origin Pulse. Misses that Mega Metagross, but connects onto that Tapu Lele, boosted by that rain. Big damage. Tapu Lele hangs on, though.
Yeah, that's a big miss. That's a big critical hit, really helping Zach kind of pull back in this game. When you miss your turn of KOs, you need to get one back somewhere, and he finds it there. Now, Tapu Lele free to just go after either of these Pokemon. Going to be moving before either of them, even if that extreme speed was there. That Psychic Train is keeping Tapu Lele safe, so Tapu Lele has its choice of Moonblast targets. If that Moonblast goes into a Protect, Kimo is way back in this game. If that Moonblast goes into a KO, that's probably the game for Zach's side. So really a crucial decision here of where that Protect lands and where that Moonblast lands. Meanwhile, Metagross, not really under too much threat itself, right? The airlock is there. It can turn into the strong winds, but no matter what, Rain is not coming back. And so Metagross is going to take a couple of hits from Kyogre. It's not under too much threat from Rayquaza, so it also has plenty of turns to find the damage, get these KOs with these Pokemon chipped. I think that last turn really turned this into Zach's favor.
Yep, Kimo Mega Evolves that Mega Rayquaza here. Delta Stream activating. Not going to matter too much, but again, there's just so much offensive presence on Zach's side of the field right here to just easily clean up. Is Kimo going to be able to pivot here as looks like the Kyogre protects itself?
Where's the Moonblast going?
Moonblast from that Tapu Lele connects into that Mega Rayquaza. Big damage being dealt here as it gets outright KO'd from that range. So easy enough for Zach to just seal the deal here as Metagross follows up with a Thunder Punch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just an easy game there, right? You throw the Moonblast, you throw the Thunder Punch.
That's it, yeah. You can't even extreme speed that Tapu Lele because the battlefield's weird.
Yeah. Really, I think all pivoted on that turn where Incineroar, rather than getting the KO onto Tapu Lele and sitting on the field continuing to be a problem, maybe even eating a berry or something, just goes down to the Stomping Tantrum crit, and Kimo loses that roadblock in the path of all these Moonblasts, all of these Thunder Punches, just clearing through his team.
Yeah, so Zach takes game 1 here. Kimo now back to the drawing board, trying to force game 3. Needs to win this next game.
Yeah. I think there was nothing wrong with how he approached it. I think he got a fine trade on that first turn, trading Amoonguss, who wasn't going to provide much value for keeping Kyogre healthy and getting a Water Spout to get rid of the Acid Spray threat. He fished out the Light that burns the sky and didn't take too much from that, managed to get Kyogre to stay around longer. But somehow it still wasn't enough, even with all of those things going well. So maybe a little bit of a trip back to the drawing board. Zach did a really good job of conserving Lele late. If he hadn't, I'd point to Tapu Koko as an answer of if Psychic Train's the problem, bring in Tapu Koko.
Yeah.
But if Lele is going to be the last Pokemon to hit the field for Zach and you have these KOs coming out so quickly, it'll be hard to keep Tapu Koko even later than that Tapu Lele. And if you're bringing in the Tapu Koko, you're giving up either Incineroar, which I think with its resistances, with the damage output it has, is just too valuable to leave. And so then you're giving up Amoonguss, which even though you think against all these psychic attacks you don't want a psychic weak Pokemon, that redirection against all this heavy offense can give you kind of a moment of control when it looks like otherwise you have none. When they are faster and they're threatening KOs everywhere, that one turn where even though you lose Amoonguss, you get a little bit of control over what Zach is targeting, which Pokemon are going down on that turn, can buy you the time you need to actually find an opportunity, find a hole back into the game.
Yep, and of course that Stomping Tantrum critical hit was also very important. That Incineroar, I'm sure, probably would have survived it with that Intimidate. So
yeah, and picked up the KO likely on Tapu Lele or gone for something big against the Metagross. We never saw Z move, so could have been the malicious Moonsault right into Metagross for a KO.
Yeah, so here we go now. Moving into game 2, Zach 1 game away from being able to move on to 3-0. So, Kimo here trying to force game 3. Kimo has all the pieces, as you've already mentioned, Len. I mean, again, maybe that critical hit would have just swung the match the other way. And looks like there's going to be some adjustments here.
Yeah, you wonder if Kimo is careful about over-adjusting after losing what likely was just to a critical hit. But he does not bring the Kyogre in here and has Incineroar on the field much faster, which I think is good because it gives you a Pokemon that can stay on the field, be a little more sturdy, kind of more reliable of how you're going to find the damage. But now Smeargle's here and kind of anything's on the table.
Smeargle. Just anything can happen. Moody can happen. Are your lovely kisses going to be able to connect? Smeargle is just one of those Pokemon where you see it and you better kind of be able to adjust on the fly, depending on how these Moody Boosts go. But again, big offensive threat over on Zach's side. That Ultra Necrozma can deal some big amounts of damage, but you have to be careful though. You can be faked out if you Ultra Burst, so there's always that. And then of course there's like some support Pokemon out. Smeargle can do Smeargle things. As Dawnwing's Necrozma Ultra Burst now becomes Ultra Necrozma and is threatening some large amounts of damage here as Smeargle uses Fake Out onto that Incineroar, makes it flinch, and here's a Photon Geyser. Hits into that Amoonguss, super effective damage. Hangs on with just one hit point right there with the Focus Sash, though. So that is going to be pretty big as Amoonguss is putting Smeargle right to sleep.
Yeah, I was looking at this board position, wondering if Fake Out Photon Geyser wasn't just so easy, and we saw the Acid Spray last time, and I thought Photon Geyser was still going to be enough damage, even without the Acid Spray special defense drop, but it wasn't the special defense drop that mattered. It was the Acid Spray chipping for just a little bit of damage, breaking that Focus Sash, and getting Amoonguss down. This time that doesn't happen, and Smeargle falls asleep, which leaves Necrozma very vulnerable to this Incineroar. It has no tools to quickly get rid of it. You definitely don't want to spend a turn doing 1 HP to Amoonguss just to take something like that Malicious Moonsault back onto Ultra Necrozma, so I think you're forced to probably protect and switch here and just find some way to make the best use of an Ultra Necrozma and not risk it waiting for Smeargle to wake back up.
But you also have to watch out because if you go on the defensive, you can easily
more spores.
Spored, yeah. As Ultra Necrozma protects itself here. Smart play from Zach here to try to give Smeargle some time to wake up. This is Smeargle's first turn of sleep, so now it does have a chance to wake up, as well as a way to burn this Malicious Moonsault from the Incineroar. So Zach on the defensive end now has to be careful about how he switches.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's looking for Smeargle to wake up on the next turn. Has that 1 in 3 chance that next turn it will be awake and fighting once again. And makes the smart decision not to trade 1 HP onto Amoonguss for a KO from this Malicious Moonsault, but still going to take a big chunk here. Ultra Necrozma, not the bulkiest Pokemon, and you see nearly half of its health lost.
Yeah, so wow. That is a quarter of what it normally would have taken, and there is a Spore in that Smeargle to try to make it, try to hit the possible switch right there. So
yeah,
Kimo covering the bases.
Yeah, covering the switch, kind of forcing Smeargle to stay on the field and forcing that Ultra Necrozma into a bad spot. Now I think you can do something like throw a Spore into the Spore and the Darkest Lariat onto the Ultra Necrozma spot, and you're either, assuming Smeargle doesn't just wake up and help out, getting the KO or putting something else to sleep as it comes in and furthering this control of the game with 1 HP Amoonguss just sitting around being very useful.
Yeah, and you hate to see it, right? If you're facing down a 1 HP Amoonguss, it's just annoying because you're sacrificing so much to be able to get the KO for just 1 hit point of damage, and there it is. If you leave it alone, it's just going to keep putting things to sleep.
If it switches out, it may come back in.
With more health, yeah.
And then come in and out a few times, get back to healthy. That Focus Sash Amoonguss looking strong. And here the Rage Powder, 1 HP is enough to take 1 hit.
And Smeargle stays asleep. Zach not happy about that right there, as a Photon Geyser from that Ultra Necrozma connects onto that Amoonguss, gets the KO, but that will do it for Ultra Necrozma as well. Incineroar most likely targeting it down with the Darkest Lariat, and here it is crashing into that Ultra Necrozma to get the KO.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great trade for Kimo. You happily give up Amoonguss to get the KO onto Ultra Necrozma. That's going to really hurt Zach's offensive pressure for the rest of the game.
Yep, and here comes more Smeargle Moody Boost, gets a special defense boost, and drops its evasiveness. So all those attacks are going to be crashing into that Smeargle. So now it comes down to the last 3 Pokemon on each side. The leads have been kind of dealt with. Half of them are still standing out on the field as Metagross makes an appearance for Zach's side of the field, and Kyogre is going to be the option for Kimo. So Kimo still exerting a lot of offensive pressure. Stomping Tantrum from that Metagross has been revealed, but it will not be able to get the KO on that Incineroar from this range.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's why Metagross was forced out here. You've got to have some pressure against Incineroar, and Stomping Tantrum is the best answer. But it's not that much, and you're still worried about Darkest Lariat coming back out. You're worried about big water moves coming out. You only have a 50-50 that Smeargle even wakes up here, or could stay asleep for another turn, and you just continue to cede control of this game. It's very likely that if Metagross goes for an attack this turn, it gets KO'd in response for that, right? A Darkest Lariat and a water move will lose you Metagross, and you won't pick up a KO.
Yeah.
And that's tough. And Smeargle, if whatever water move it is going to be spread, and it's going to take Smeargle also down to its Focus Sash and really eat away these health bars that Zach has left.
Yep, Smeargle does might be able to go for a sleep move onto either Incineroar or Kyogre. Mega Metagross takes the field. It has revealed Thunder Punch, so it will be able to chunk away at that Kyogre as well. So Metagross has a chance to kind of cover the bases. Smeargle stays asleep right there. So Smeargle trying to help out, but Metagross uses Stomping Tantrum into that Incineroar slot. Super effective damage, big damage, but again, Incineroar hangs on as now Kyogre uses Origin Pulse, connects with both Pokemon, hits that Metagross, hits that Smeargle. big damage on that Metagross.
Ooh, is this enough?
Oh, and here's the
he just
U-turn
gets the
onto
KO on
onto that Smeargle, and it is enough because it didn't get any Moody Boost in that physical defense stat. So, so smart play right there from Kimo to just ensure that Smeargle was not going to be doing any more work.
Yeah, would have been guaranteed to wake up on the next turn, and so instead he just takes it off the field right before it would have woken up, and Smeargle comes on the field, fakes out once, and then naps for 3 turns and goes down, really just hurting Zach the entire time it's set there and forced him to play 1-on-2. Metagross takes a good amount from the Origin Pulse, but escapes without the Darkest Lariat, and so it stays on the field now in a 3-on-2 match where the Selgor really not offering that much to support to Metagross, right? Like the Acid Spray is not going to help Metagross attack physically. You can't try to take a Final Gambit trade at this point. You can't Final Gambit when you're losing. Really just not providing much. Not the 4th Pokemon you want to see hit the field.
Yeah. A Selgor hitting the field last is
Tapu Lele would have at least offered like the Scarf Moonblast and the same things it offered in the last game. But
yep. Rayquaza switches out as Incineroar takes the field. Big Intimidate landing onto this Mega Metagross, so that's going to be important here just to minimize the amount of damage that's going to be dealt. But again, what can this Selgor do? Using Final Gambit, hits into that Kyogre slot, but that's definitely not going to be enough to get the KO. Brings it down to 19 hit points as Selgor sacrifices itself here. As Metagross uses Iron Head, hits into what was that Rayquaza slot, does not even get the KO on that. Doesn't get the KO onto that Incineroar as a Water Spout does just enough to get the KO. That's all that matters, and it's rain boosted. So Kimo now forcing game 3. We're moving on to game 3.
Yeah, that was another light speed game. Selgor just tries to move the game along even quicker, knocking itself out with that Final Gambit. These games are all swinging, as these really heavy offensive games do, on 1 or 2 pivotal turns. In that one, it was definitely that turn 1. I think that nearly decided the game from the get-go. And that Focus Sash was revealed, caught Zach by surprise, and what he expected to be, at worst with the moves he chose, a KO, like at best with what the moves he chose, just a KO on Amoonguss and Fake Out Incineroar, and it looked for a while like that was what it was going to be. We see the Fake Out land, we see the Photon Geyser land, but as soon as that Focus Sash activates, keeps Amoonguss on the field, gets Smeargle asleep, things have totally backfired and gone wrong, and he has no clear ways to get out of that position. Probably should have switched, tried to change the field position, but he waited, put his hopes on Smeargle waking up, and Smeargle did not wake up. Slept the whole 3 turns, and Zach lost the game during those 3 turns. I think likely we see Selgor right back out to the lead. If you know that you have to worry about Focus Sash, Amoonguss, then Acid Spray becomes all the more valuable, and we won't see Smeargle again in this game 3. But that Focus Sash, that information disadvantage there really coming in for Kimo.
Now, moving into game 3, we did have a Selgor sacrifice itself with that Final Gambit, but again, the more important thing is it needs to be able to break that Focus Sash, as you've already mentioned.
And I think you need Tapu Lele, right? And Zach didn't left Lele back. He had both the support of Smeargle and the support of Selgor, but Lele really does offer a lot in this matchup, right? Because it answers the Rayquaza so well. Outspeeds it with that Moonblast, prevents the extreme speed, and when you have a Pokemon that can kind of solve one of your opponent's restricteds that easily, you're worried about something like the Metagross, where once Tapu Lele has locked into an attack that's not much of a threat to the Metagross, or not locked into something that's not much of a threat to that Incineroar, it's just kind of sitting there for those two. But I think the value it offers against Rayquaza means it has to be brought.
Yeah, and here we go now. Zach trying to think out his game plan here. Kimo already knows what he wants to do. Again, probably knowing the matchup against this sort of team where it's just super hyper offensive Pokemon trying to get KOs as fast as possible. Going now into game 3. Both players 2-0. Both players trying to move on to 3-0 as we get ready now to jump into the leads here. It is going to be a Selgor and Tapu Lele leads for Zach, and Kimo leading with Incineroar and Amoonguss. So adjustments from Zach's side, no adjustments from Kimo's side so far.
Yeah, the Lele coming out is going to prevent the Fake Out from the Incineroar here, but that Focus Sash is still a problem. If you were looking at this game state and didn't know about the Focus Sash, you'd think, I can just Gambit for a KO, I can just Psychic for a KO, and Incineroar, it's threatening Darkest Lariat, but with no Fake Out, I'm not too worried about it. But because of that Focus Sash, you would have to commit both attacks to stop a Spore from coming out. And that's really risky. If you commit both attacks into Protect, while Incineroar just U-turns for some good damage against Lele and brings something else in, it's a really poor turn 1. So I think this is a lot more difficult first turn, a lot more difficult decision for Zach of where to put these early offensive resources, because when you are playing a team this aggressive, this offensive, you can't wind up on the back foot for too long. You have to always be pressing forward.
You want to be doing big damage each turn.
And that Focus Sash makes it much harder to press forward each turn.
Yeah. Here we go now. Amoonguss protects itself here. Is it going to be a double into that slot as Final Gambit from Aselgor hits into that Incineroar, though, dealing good damage. Will be able to hang on to 12 hit points right there. So where is Tapu Lele going to go with its next attack? It is going to be a Psychic into what was that Amoonguss Protect, as Incineroar just going all out malicious moonsault right into that Tapu Lele, trying to get the KO right off the bat. This could be a very early 4-2 lead for Kimo.
Yeah, Zach had to be hoping that Final Gambit was enough to KO. It's so close there. If it had been, this would have been kind of the best case scenario for him. He gets Aselgor off the field, gets the KO on Incineroar, and kind of calls the Protect for Amoonguss, doesn't put the double target there. But because he misses the KO, now he loses 2 Pokemon just for a lot of Incineroar's health bar, and that's not enough. And he still has this Focus Sash Amoonguss problem now with Necrozma likely forced onto the field. It's really difficult to commit both an Ultra Necrozma and a Mega Metagross attack to KO one Amoonguss, but as soon as you don't, a Spore comes out, so you're going to be forced to probably immediately, and that's just going to be more free damage for this Incineroar. Kimo does go for the Protect on the Amoonguss, manages to stop the Psychic coming in, and doesn't need the Spore anyway, since both of the Pokemon get knocked out.
Yep. Metagross and Dawnwing's Necrozma take the field here. No spread moves available on the sides, so again, as you mentioned, it's a lot of resources to pump into knocking out that Amoonguss. You might be able to bypass that by protecting correctly.
Yeah, if you protect the Spore and pick up the Incineroar, things get easier, but that's definitely a protection game. You see another issue with these really heavy offensive teams. We see now a 12 HP Incineroar being a problem. It was 1 HP Amoonguss that was a problem in the last game. If every attack is looking to one-hit KO something, then attacks that are doing 10 damage to a Pokemon feel
wasted.
Feel very wasted.
Wasteful.
Feel like huge drops in momentum, especially when you're not just cleanly picking up 2 KOs and moving on to the next turn.
Yep, and here is the Ultra Necrozma bursting out onto the field, ready to burn up some of that sky as Ultra Necrozma forced to protect itself here as Metagross trying to open up that Amoonguss as Metagross uses Iron Head, hits into that Amoonguss slot, breaks that Focus Sash, that important Focus Sash, but here's a Darkest Lariat right into that. You have to imagine those are split. Oh, it flinches! Oh, that is exactly what Zach needed.
That's huge, because you have to imagine Kimo is going to split the Darkest Lariat and the Spore so that no matter what happened with Protect, he gets something out of value out of that turn. So that would have been a sleeping Metagross, and instead that Iron Head comes in, gets the flinch, and now you do just have the 2 clean KOs. It doesn't hurt to do 12 damage when you're also KOing with the other spot, and Kimo has nothing he can do on this turn. Just the Photon Geyser into Amoonguss, the Iron Head into Incineroar, and unless Kimo switches, that's 2 KOs in a 2-2 game.
Yep, and no switches for the for Kimo's side of the field. Zach right there making a smart decision to not Mega Evolve yet, just in case that Incineroar pivoted out and came back in for an Intimidate. Amoonguss protects itself here, not wanting to be KO just yet. Here's the Photon Geyser into that Amoonguss slot, but Metagross is going to follow up with a Thunder Punch into that Incineroar slot and get the KO. So now 2 more Pokemon in the back for Kimo, most likely going to be that Rayquaza and that Kyogre that he's brought all 2 other battles.
Yeah, and Amoonguss still offering something of a lot of value here in that Rage Powder because of how the speeds work out with Ultra Necrozma and Metagross. That Ultra Necrozma has to move first, and so it can't go for something like a Light that burns the sky against this Kyogre because it will just get Rage Powdered over to Amoonguss. You'll land a Thunder Punch that's not enough, and a big Origin Pulse will come in. And so Amoonguss managing to stay pesky even after being flinched, and still something that's providing a lot of utility to Kimo. You can't protect the Ultra Necrozma again this turn, so you probably you could attempt it. You could try to risk something, but if you're not KOing that Amoonguss, a Spore is a likely outcome. And so Spore, Rage Powder, so many things to worry about, so many things that this 114 HP Amoonguss can do.
And be careful too. Psychic Terrain is really useful for Light that burns the sky. The terrain has 2 more turns left. If Kimo plays it out well enough, he might be able to stall out the Psychic Terrain, and you won't be doing as much damage as you want with that Light that burns the sky. looks like it's going to be a protect from that Ultra Necrozma, not wanting to just waste itself here.
So he does call it right here. Doesn't burn the light, burns the sky into that Rage Powder.
As Metagross uses Iron Head, but that probably not going to be enough to get the KO. It is actually from that range, so...
Yeah, surprising, because all the damage that was there so far was an Iron Head, so that's more damage than the last one.
Yep, so here's an Ice Beam into that Ultra Necrozma, but here we go. Now, Kimo will be able to successfully stall out the Psychic Train if he wants to with the double protect here, as Rayquaza is going to take the field. No, it's actually going to be a Metagross. Another Metagross on the field, Len.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's that great for Kimo. He was hoping to have it to resist all these Psychic attacks, but now it's just vulnerable to the stopping tantrums from the Metagross on the other side. Yes, Kimo can protect the Kyogre to stop the light that burns the sky from KOing, but it will still do a massive amount of chip, probably enough that means you can follow up and start picking up the KO with something like Thunder Punch. Really, that last turn went as well for Zach as it could have. I thought that the protect and attack with Metagross option wasn't available because it wouldn't be enough to KO the Amoonguss, and you were going to allow a Spore to come out or have just not KO'd the Amoonguss and the Rage Powder play was still on the table. But the Rage Powder comes out instead of the Spore, and then he picks up the KO anyway. That high roll Iron Head compared to the last low roll Iron Head, getting rid of that Amoonguss, finally letting him move on to playing this 2-on-2 game.
Metagross on Kimo's side, Mega Evolves. Again, tough spot. Metagross not exactly the best in the situation as Kyogre protects itself here, as here comes a light that burns the sky, boosted by that Psychic Train, targeting down into what is most likely that Kyogre slot, still going to be doing some major chip damage through that protect.
Yeah, really important damage, because you're looking at this damage to be what lets you get a 2-hit KO. This is the first hit. That's how powerful this light that burns the sky with Psychic Train is. And then you're going to try to figure out how you deal with the Metagross afterwards.
Yep, so here it is. Lands into that Kyogre Protect. Some damage done, but it's important damage nonetheless. Opening up opportunities for the incoming turns for the KO onto the Kyogre. Now, there it is. Burning that sky.
Kyogre sent to the core of the light here.
Kyogre takes big damage.
That's not probably enough, though, for Thunder Punch. We've seen this Thunder Punch before. That's not going to do it.
Yep, as Metagross on... doubling up into that Kyogre slot right there. As Metagross on Kimo's side uses Meteor Mash, hits into the Ultra Necrozma. Good damage as the Psychic Train finally disappears.
Yeah, so not expecting the light that burns the sky to be enough, even if Kyogre hadn't protected. Looks like it probably would have been. Did, just over a quarter of Kyogre's health. So he follows it up. That's a big missed opportunity to pick up some of this damage on Metagross. At some point, you have to make all these trades work out.
Yep, you're missing a beat, pretty much.
You probably now have to still double target that Kyogre, both a Photon Geyser and a Stomping Tantrum, to actually pick up the KO. You imagine Metagross KOs the Ultra Necrozma in return, and then you have a one-on-one of Metagrosses here. That's a one-on-one that's way more beneficial to you if it's a Metagross on the other side that has already taken one Stomping Tantrum. So really a big missed opportunity for some of this damage onto Metagross.
Yep, and Kimo's Metagross uses Bullet Punch, connects with that Ultra Necrozma. It is not enough to get the KO, and here is an unboosted Photon Geyser from the Ultra Necrozma on Zach's side. Hits into that Kyogre slot, does good damage right there. A critical hit, though, as Metagross follows up with a Thunder Punch, so that critical hit most likely not mattering anyways, but the Bullet Punch on to the Ultra Necrozma did not do enough damage. Like, if that got the KO, that would have been huge, but unfortunately just whiffed it for Kimo. Yeah,
you think that has to mean Kimo doesn't have faith in winning a Metagross one-on-one there, because he could have just had it by Meteor Mashing. Instead, tries to save the Kyogre by preventing the Photon Geyser, misses that KO, and now he's playing 2-on-1 with a Metagross on each side.
Yep, as Metagross on Kimo's side protects itself here, seeing what is going to be happening as Moongeist Beam from that Ultra Necrozma is revealed, as well as Stomping Tantrum, and
those two attacks are the KO.
Those two attacks are the KO, so Kimo just quite...
He has to Bullet Punch probably again.
Ran out of steam, yeah. Bullet Punch and...
But nothing. I mean, at that point, you're not going to be able to win a trade once you're behind the Stopping Tantrum that you could have been behind earlier, but now he will definitely fall behind in that Metagross 1v1 as he has to Bullet Punch again. Or just take this Moongeist Beam.
Here's the Moongeist Beam. gonna connect on to that Mega Metagross. Hangs on with just a sliver of hit points, but here comes Mega Metagross on Zach's side with a Stomping Tantrum to follow up. Gets the KO, and Zach Droegkamp moves to 3-0 over Kimo Nishimura.
Yeah, Kimo's got to be kind of upset with that one, right? You look at Game 1, it was a very important kind of piece of bad luck that turned it against Kimo. The Game 3 had the same. But Zach played well in those games. He found his opportunities, and Kimo just didn't have quite the staying power against all these big psychic attacks that he needed.
Yeah. Wow. Great set from both players. I mean, we saw a very hyper-offensive team just dish out so much damage. It missed a couple beats every once in a while.
I really thought in that Game 3 that Zach had missed too many opportunities to find his damage. But in the end, the Metagross getting that Iron Head KO onto Amoonguss on a turn that
the big flinch,
Ultra Necrozma states, of course, the big flinch is what I was saying with the piece of bad luck that kind of turns the game against Kimo. But still, the following turn where Metagross finds that KO, gets Amoonguss off the field, prevents any Spore, prevents the following Rage Powder that would have allowed Kyogre to attack for free on that last turn of Psychic Terrain, really turns the game into Zach's favor.
Yeah, incredible set from both players. There's more action to come here from the 2019 Pokemon Video Game Regional Championships here in Portland. The next round is going to be after the lunch break. I believe players are to be summoned back at 1. So we're going to do some things to kill time for you. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, but when we come back, of course, more action here from Portland. So stay tuned, everybody.